guys, what's good, Angel Knots? It's your boy Young Sinai.
Angel Knot.
First, I'm going to go ahead and get things started with the prayer. Father God, thank you for today, Lord. Thank you for everyone who tunes in. Thank you for everyone who watches the video on the rewatch. I ask that you protect them, bless them and their families, and let them know you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Angel Knot.
All right, this video is Do We Have Too Many Games? It is by Jake Baldino. Okay, and salute to him with the Metal Gear Solid shirt. Whenever I see somebody with some Metal Gear Solid shirt on, I gotta, All right, let's go ahead and get this started.
There's too many games to play. Do you ever feel like you have kind of like a big struggle every time you try to decide to play a new game? This is probably because things have changed quite a bit since the old days. There is so much choice now. That is good for the consumer, but it could also be extremely overwhelming. Yes, you can say this is something of like what people use as like first world problem, but with the amount of services and stuff offered these days, from Xbox Game Pass and everything.
Yeah, man, it's definitely analysis paralysis when playing games. Before I can play a game, I'm usually scrolling for like 3 minutes trying to figure out what do I want to play. And then I'm like, oh, let me just play something retro. And then I'm scrolling for 3 more minutes looking through all of the ROMs I downloaded.
I think that gives you to, if you have a PlayStation Plus membership, the free games that gives you. Epic Game Store doles out free games all the time. Steam, you're getting games on sale all the time.
That's why I canceled my Xbox Live account, because I'm like, yo, I do not need this service that I'm paying monthly for these games that I'm not going to play, I'm not going to finish, when I have all of these Steam games and stuff that I bought that I still haven't finished.
You're always building up your backlog. There's a million different examples for how your games could be piling up without you even spending too much extra money, and it can get overwhelming. Now, I posed this problem to a lot of you guys on social media, and there was some good conversation. And
that is so funny. I did not know he was going there. This is starting to get insane. If you have a Game Pass subscription and maybe one other console, you officially have more games to play than time on this earth. That's true. Remember having one game to play endlessly for like 8 months? Kid me will be freaking out over Game Pass. That is facts. That is facts. That is facts. When you have an abundance of something, it's like you do not appreciate it as much. But like as a kid, like your 8 games that you had, your 6 games, like you could play them over and over, and then there weren't any save states. So if you died, you died. You know what I'm saying? You gotta start them over. Replay value.
I realized like, oh, it wasn't just me. And I've kind of wanted to tackle this topic for a while, but I've kind of had reservations because I thought it was just me. And I was like, get over yourself, you big baby. You can't decide what video game to play. It's also me kind
of... No, that's a real struggle. I've heard a lot of people say that.
Kind of being fed up with it in the sense that it started with other stuff like streaming, like Netflix and blah, 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 all those services. Yep. If you have one of those, maybe even 2 of those, I've
analysis paralysis.
Very often have found myself just scrolling going, what do I watch? Oh, what the fuck am I gonna watch? Full well going into this wanting to watch something, not knowing what exactly, but you know, whether you're there by yourself or you're there with your significant other or your imaginary friend, whatever, you often find yourself just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. What do you want to watch? What do you want to watch?
Have y'all ever found that looking at YouTube videos to try to figure out what game to buy next is low-key almost more fun than actually playing the game? Or is that just me? It can't just be me, right? Let me know.
I don't know. And that's been me for years. And now with the way game services are being offered, it feels like it's the same thing. And I don't like seeing it go down that road. I do think it's a specific issue, though, because it's not something that every player experiences. I talk to some people who don't have that problem at all. You might only like a couple of genres of games. You might like a specific category of games. That's what you play. You love them. You play them endlessly. Good for you. There are some people who like to play a couple of different genres, like maybe me, or maybe you out there, who will try something, or they like JRPGs, they like RPGs, they like action and adventure, whatever. I've met a lot of people like that, and with more and more games releasing, thankfully it's a little quiet right now, but with more and more games releasing, there's a lot. I think the thing for me is that there have actually now been more good games releasing than bad games. And I don't mean like you don't like a game and you call it trash. I mean like a game that is like not a mess, maybe not for you or your personal taste, but a game that is good, not broken, interesting to play, that is out there. There's more games like that out there than there isn't. Now, if you only pay attention to AAA games, you're going to say, no, Jake, all games are releasing broken. There are so many other games out there, dude, that are coming out all the time, that are great, that don't get enough attention. But there is a question.
Isn't it crazy that the AAA games, these huge studios, are the ones that are releasing broken games, but the indie developers are these double A games, whatever that is. Those are the ones who are releasing games like in their full state without like patches and stuff. Isn't that crazy?
In terms of quality of releases of things being dumped onto these Netflix of games types of experiences, like PlayStation Now, Game Pass, anything, GeForce Now, whatever, wherever you're playing your things. The question is more better? And interestingly enough, I tried to dive into researching some of this stuff. I've always called it choice paralysis. That's what it's always felt like, being paralyzed by choice. And by looking into it, it is actually a thing. Usually it's referred to as analysis paralysis. I didn't really know any of this. And like, interestingly enough, there's like not a shit ton of definitive studies.
It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant, you know, and it just has a ton of different things on the menu. Matter of fact, do y'all remember that show back in the day, Restaurant Impossible, where the guy would go in and he would like completely destroy, he would completely tell the restaurant owners how bad the restaurant was, and they would have a menu with like freaking 300 things. He's like, yo, you need to slim it down to these 12 items.
Or research out there, but there is a couple of things that I've seen that just make me at least go, oh, okay, that's a thing. So the main term analysis paralysis is defined as, let me get out my big, I'm back on the folding phone. Oh God, analysis.
Hey, why he sound mad about that? You know what I'm saying? Why he sound mad about that?
Paralysis, or paralysis by analysis. This is very like Grandmaster Flash, describes an individual or group process when overanalyzing or overthinking a situation can cause forward motion or decision making to become paralyzed, meaning that no solution or cause of action is decided upon. A situation may be deemed too complicated and a decision is never made, due to the fear that a potentially larger problem may arise. A person may desire a perfect solution but may fear making a decision that could result in error, while on the way to a better solution. There's also the concern of the worry of diminishing returns. The more that you worry about making a decision, the crappier decision you'll make. So the big thing with this concept actually was a study conducted surrounding jams. Essentially, this jam company put out tables of jam choices, and there were two, and they would rotate their offering. It would either be 6 jars of different varieties of jams or like 24. So I'm reading the paraphrase description from the New York Times. I'll read it in the description below, but essentially, whether it was a big offering or a small offering, most people choose to taste test an average of 2 jams. But 60% of customers were drawn to the large assortment, while only 40% stopped by the smaller offering. But with that, interestingly, 30% of the people who had sampled from the smaller choices decided to buy something, while only 3% of the people confronted with like 24 jams bought one. So it kind of encourages the hypothesis that presence of choice might be appealing as a theory, but in reality, people might find more and more choice to actually be debilitating. This is the main one.
Yeah, because people don't want to think, just make it easy for me, especially if I'm, going out to eat. There's been so many times when me and my wife have gone out to eat, and I just want to try something different on the menu. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stick to what I know and get the California burrito from El Maguey. Okay. Like, I'm not about to try to see if something is better, even though I really want to, because I do not want to waste my money.
that a lot of articles have went to, but there have been more since then with different things like food or different types of choices, people. But what I think is interesting is that other scientists have pointed out that it's not necessarily saying that more choices are bad. It's really how it's presented, what's presented, and the expertise given or the expertise you have about it all. So what I think is interesting from the gaming perspective, at least for my gamer brain and maybe for yours, is that with these games, like, yeah, so you're looking at a bunch of Netflix stuff. Maybe you don't like horror movies, or you really don't like whatever. There's probably a good portion of things that you're never going to watch on Netflix. But I think for players of video games, it might be a little harder because I feel like we all like subconsciously aspire to play everything. We want to see everything. We want to at least try everything.
Hey, yo, my bad, low key. When he was talking about Netflix, man, I think I'm going to cancel my Netflix subscription. Like, for real, for real. They have raised the price, I think, to what, like $17? Like, dude, the only thing I'm watching on Netflix is Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I can get that on eBay. I looked up the price. It's $60 total for both. All the seasons. Why am I paying for Netflix?
We want to just experience every new game experience. And I think the problem is that these offerings, whether it's you having a massive backlog on Steam or whatever, the intention isn't for you to play all of it. But for big enthusiasts like us, like, how can we not want to or aspire to? I feel like it's like in the nature of gaming, like it's in our nature. Or like when you were younger and you could only get your hands on like one game and you played that game obsessively for 6 months, maybe even a year, until you were able to get another one and you knew the ins and outs of that game and you were so excited about the next game, and it was either going to be the best thing ever or it was going to be terrible, and you learned to live with it and you still play the hell out of it. And the problem is, I think whether you like it or not, maybe if you're an old school gamer or not, it's going to get worse. There's going to be more games on offer, more decisions. I think the concern a lot of people brought up with me in the Twitter.
This is true, but if you're up on things, you've already played 90% of them. Not that it's not nice to have them around, just saying. I have not played 90% of the games that I have bought. No, I'm sorry. Like, it got to a point where I just had to, if I was broke, man, I just had to stop looking at what's the newest Nintendo Switch game videos. I just started looking at retro videos so I can download stuff, for free, because man, it can really be a money sinker, a money pit for real. Games you're not even gonna play.
It was quiet.
Let's say back in the day when games actually had depth and depth to them and weren't as shallow as a kitchen sink.
In terms of like, hey, what if they're just dumping a bunch of shitty games onto these streaming services? I think so far it's been pretty good. Like I said earlier, I think statistically there are more games out there that are mechanically and production-wise good than not. It just might not be something that you're into, but over time they're going to keep adding things, and I know they take some away, but they're going to keep adding things to these services that there's going to be more for you. And then there's the whole other debate or question, like with these services, like, are you going to be able to get through an entire game before they change it? Like, say The Witcher 3 on Game Pass, you're slowly chewing through it hour by hour for hundreds of hours, and then it's taken off the server. Like, there's those questions too. But I think in terms of like the future and this increasing, two takeaways maybe. And number one, from what I've read and from what I've seen and suggesting, not really with games, but with other choices, the idea, the theory to limiting yourself to 2 or 3 choices and being hardline about that. You see something, you say, okay, maybe that. You see another thing as you're scrolling, you say, okay, maybe that. And you see 3 or 2 of those, and you say, okay, I am deciding between these 2 or 3. That can at least make it a little bit easier. I've been doing that lately when I'm scrolling through Netflix.
It's even harder, like, if you have ADHD, because you'll see something and you'll think, okay, this is the one. And then you'll think, no, it's not the one. This other one is actually the one. But wait, maybe it's actually this other. It's a lot, man. It's like a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing. We're so spoiled. That's what it is. That's what it boils down to, is that we're freaking spoiled. Let me tell y'all a quick story. So I went on a mission trip to Belize, I want to say about 10 years ago, okay? and there were these little kids. They were orphans, and we went to an orphanage, and they had bottles, okay, plastic bottles, and they filled them up with pebbles, and they were like this. I conveniently have a plastic bottle. They were like this, "Doo, doo, 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 doo," and like when the pebbles fell out of the bottle, it made like a sound effect, kind of like a gun. But I was playing it with him. I was like, I win, I win. It's like, no, you lose, you lose. I was like, oh snap, I ain't playing this right. But I was just thinking at that time, I was like, man, back in the US, there is some kid cursing their mom out because they don't have batteries for their Game Boy, or their, DS died or something. And it's just crazy. Like, we're over here complaining, and it's a real problem. It's not like it's not a problem, but we're complaining that we have so much to play. It's like we have so many different restaurants and everything. We're just so spoiled in this country. And eh, but
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Netflix or scrolling through Hulu or whatever. So part of the solution is you. It's like a little self-therapy, a little consumer exercise how you consume things. But on the other end, I think the other thing, and it's suggested by a lot of these little studies, is consumer education. I think the people that offer, especially more, not like you just having a bunch of games on your Steam backlog, but more of these like Game Pass type subscription services, the more that they offer these choices, I think the better they have to be curated, the more you have to be informed about them. It seems like this is a new thing, and the companies are very much learning as they go, and I think they're doing a decent job. But more and more, I think we're going to have more categorization, more things being tailored specifically to you, whether that's through smart algorithms or not. I don't know, but just overall more information, because I mean you have the good idiots like us. You have YouTubers, like you can look up and hear about a game, and that's good. You can be informed, but like when you're actually just staring at a marketplace, it's different. There's reviews, there's stuff, but how it's presented to you, I think they could rethink. I almost think we might get to a point where there's a demand for the opposite. I'm going like far in the future now, because people could do this now on their own, but like down the line, people might actually look for services that offer more smaller curated choices of games. Does that make sense? Kind of.
I don't think that's ever going to happen, but it definitely will be curated. It won't be smaller, I don't think, but it's probably just going to be like Netflix. It's just or YouTube. Like the algorithm is going to learn more about you, and that's a cool thing and a scary thing at the same time.
Like, I don't know, like maybe like other vices or something, like say a cigar lounge, where it's like, yeah, you can walk into this big store where they sell a bunch of cigars, or you can go in the back where the rich people hang out and there's only like 20 cigars to choose from, but they're all really good. I like something like that. I could see a game service or a mailing list, or even like a content creator just outlining and recommending games. People will learn to lean towards more smaller curated groups of games, like, hey, you're like this, you might like this. Now I'm getting real.
I love Tony Hawk. I got a video on my YouTube about my love for Tony Hawk. Please check it out if you haven't seen it. I worked very hard on it, and not a lot of people watched it.
Really abstract though. I'm really losing this, but I think that's the ultimate thing here, is going to be a battle with yourself, figuring out how to decide if you do struggle with this problem, maybe do a little self-therapy. And number two, hopefully the categorization and the way these things are offered and the way we're educated or informed about these choices only improves at the same time. But this is part of the hell of the all digital future. I don't know, more questions like this, more what ifs. And I look into choice paralysis and analysis paralysis. I'm going to link it all in the description, because it is pretty interesting stuff. And especially considering it's not like the biggest thing in the world, it's still fun. So that's kind of why I wanted to make this video. So I definitely want to know what you guys think. I think it's going to be split. I think some of you are going to be like, yeah, that is a thing. And I think some of you are going to be like, what are you talking about? Shut up with your first world problems. And I get it completely. But I think this is a fun topic. It's not really one for like the algorithm or anything. I just kind of wanted to jump into it because.
Yeah, but he made a lot of good points. Once again, like I said, we're super spoiled here in the US. It's an awesome thing, but it's kind of like, back in the day when you would watch, if you had cable and you would flip through 97 channels, and you're like, there's nothing to watch. No, it's something to watch, boy. But no, I get it. I feel it. It's real. It's anxiety. It's very stressful. And hobbies shouldn't be stressful, but it is. It's like it would be like an artist who they want to paint something, but they just have way too many options of paint. When they say when you limit things, that's when they're able to be more creative, right? I appreciate you guys sticking around and tuning in. Okay. Hey, if you stuck around this long, I appreciate you. Please subscribe. I am on my journey to my first 1,000 subscribers. And if you're watching me on Twitch, you can find me on YouTube at Angel Not Geek Stuff. Yeah, but I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and hopefully y'all had some fun. All right, God bless to you and your family. Salutations to the nations. Peace.
Angel Knot.